Oh, is it all right? Oh my goodness.
Hi, it's Ricky at Moshville Times here once again. Now tonight I'm delighted to be joined by Kent stoner doom metal band Struck Down. Tonight we've actually virtually got the whole frickin' band. So we've got Tommy on drums, we've got vocalist Lyndon, and we've got guitarists Will and Ian. So before we start then, guys, how are you doing? Have you been lucky enough to escape all this COVID nonsense? Everything okay?
Do you know what?
We've never heard of it.
None of us has had it, yeah. No. Yeah, no, yeah. We couldn't think that. None of us have it.
What's COVID? Did we have that down yet?
None of us have had it, we think. Ooh,
yeah.
As far as we're aware, yeah.
But no, we've all been really quite fortunate, actually.
Yeah.
I've had a household of it, and I've dodged it every time. Like, that's twice I've dodged it. Had it in my house twice. So, who knows?
Maybe you should be made a case study then. You're the first person to be immune from it or something like that. So you've got something.
Everyone thought I was going to be patient zero. So kind of got off lightly, to be honest.
Yeah.
If they did a case study on Tommy, it would come back with so much other shit. They wouldn't know what to do with it. Like broken back, fuck liver.
I've got a funny feeling this is going to be a fun and games interview. So I apologise to the listeners just now or the viewers just now, but we're not here to talk about all things COVID. We're obviously here to talk about all things Struck Down. So a couple of months ago then you released your debut EP From Demons. So how have the reviews been for it so far?
Decent. Yeah. We've
had there's been a lot. We've had a few in other countries. There was one earlier. I think it was in Spain or somewhere.
Yeah,
we've had like 2 or 3 abroad, so which is quite interesting because we've never really been off the shores of England.
Some of them come with a little translate to English button, and some of them do not. Some of them you can't even copy and paste into Google Translate to see what keywords are nice.
That was the last one, wasn't it? Yeah, I still don't know what it said.
Occasionally you'd come across comprende, and you're like, well, I don't comprende.
that does sum up some of the reviews we've had from other countries. But like Will said, it's awesome that the route we went down. It does mean we're getting people outside of the country to hear our stuff, which is awesome.
Exactly.
Because that's what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I take it that with the Spanish review, then you couldn't understand a word for it, but you put it on your Facebook as it was a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, 100%.
There's posters of Struck Down all over Spain now. To be shipped there.
So was there a possibility that the EP could have been out before November then? Or was it because of restrictions you couldn't get together in the studio or whatever like that? Or did it come out just at the right time?
If anything, the restrictions pushed us to get it out sooner than we wanted to.
Okay.
It forced us to go the DIY route with recording at home and getting mixed by our good friend Stuart Day, whereas we were going to go into sort of professional studio once everything was written, but we literally went the single route, and then once all the singles were sort of like out and about, the next thing was to drop the EP, right? So
it had all its own pros and cons, really. Obviously, like Tommy said, it was quicker in that sense. Well, not quicker, but more efficient with going into Stuart and doing it. But at the same time, if we needed anything done, like Tommy needed to go over and check some drums or stuff, that was literally near impossible because of the restrictions.
Yeah.
So it kind of comes with its own pros and cons, really.
Yeah. So I know that this was like chapter 1 EP. So with chapter 2 then, is the plan then to go in the studio, or did you actually find that working from home, obviously it will cut costs, but you were perfectly happy with the way that the EP turned out?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very similar
we were definitely
idea.
Happy with it.
Yeah.
I think it's just that, sorry to jump over Tommy there. I think we can just hear room for it to be bigger. I think something we've chased for years is getting the impact of our live set on a disc.
Yeah.
Whereas it's hard for that energy to translate when you've then gone into a booth to say record it, as opposed to just the impact of how you would have it live. So in terms of recording EP part 2 and having less restrictions and less issues in the way of recording, we're still aiming to get that sort of sound that we feel does, again, translate to what we are as a live entity and how much of an impact that can be, how much of an impact they can have.
Yeah. Lyndon's really nailed it. We We were in a fortunate position where even before COVID was even people were talking about it, we had most of the EP done.
Okay.
But like Tommy said, we weren't rushing it at that time. And then the pandemic kind of like, well, we've got to do something. So luckily we had most of the EP done anyway. And then before the EP actually released, we managed to kind of get slightly better mixes, which the sound was like a lot wider. So that's really helped us kind of, I think, focusing for the next EP is that we're going to try and go for an even better mix to really, you know, we want to sound our best. And also we want to attract the attention of people, the right people, to push our band forwards as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think without trying to say too much, we're going to be chasing a much bigger and better sound for the next EP.
So maybe not revealing too much, but do you have your idea of where it's going to be recorded and who's going to do it for you? Is it far too early to say?
In terms of the actual tracking itself, we're going to take a similar route. So Stuart's going to do a lot of the actual tracking in the same way that we did EP1. However, from a production and mixing point of view, it's still very much, we're going to be looking at other producers, trying to get that super sort of polished modern sound out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still too early to say, but we've got a good idea how we're actually going to track the next EP for sure.
No, it's good that you've got an action plan. You've got ideas already started, so that's good. But I don't know if it was a wee bit strange or I found it was just myself. But before you released the EP, you released 4 of the 5 songs as singles. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
I was just wondering why you thought of releasing 4. Did you think of just doing 2 and then? So it keeps us all in suspense, like what the next 3 songs going to sound like, or was it always the idea of releasing that many singles before the EP?
I think, sorry, if you want to hit up this answer, Tommy, but
Where are you? You're up there for me. It's up to you, man. You can take it. Go for it.
To be honest, it was, I think, just the process in which we were doing these releases. We had so much content generated from filming the music videos, recording it, writing it, and things like that. It was almost quite a nice process as opposed to having this massive long build up to one drop to then sort of fall off it on the other side, both in terms of connection with fans and algorithms and things like that. Yeah. But beyond that, as a band member, I can definitely say for myself, if you do a release, you'll have gigs that follow and things like that, and you may have gigs that continue on after that. But then you're seeing about new restrictions coming in and things like that, and it was almost a way of maintaining that. We developed like a really nice positive spirit that was, we're consistently like trying to punch through the ceiling. Yeah. Whereas I know that it, especially with everything that was going on, and then times where it would be months between practices, and then we would cram all them in. There was definitely that sort of fear of keeping all this stuff back, including the concept and everything like that. Whereas listening through it in just one stint, there was the chance you would miss any of the sort of the stuff we tried to lace within it. Sure. So
it's staying power, I think, is that we did talk about it before even COVID. We said about, why don't we drop a bunch of singles? So we're every few months we're releasing content. Yeah. Because the music industry is really different to even like 10 years ago, like when I was growing up listening to music as a teenager, as we all were, in fact. Yeah. Even especially you. I mean, you're like 25, so you know what it's like.
He's a charmer, isn't he?
I am. Well, not if you consult Lyndon's background picture. No, apparently I'm not a charmer. But yeah, we never wanted to not be in people's sort of spheres or attention. So we thought we just keep dropping content, and when you combine that with a pandemic, you get like a happy marriage of, well, we'll just keep releasing stuff.
Yeah. So, Will, do you see a release of the photographer then as a future release, or
in terms of like a video full single sort of release? Yeah, it's in the cards. There is a video that we're currently sort of editing together at the moment. We did have it planned to drop. However, some of the content that was involved in the video was very much in the public eye at that time. Okay. Without going into too much depth, it could have been construed in the wrong way that we wanted it to. But by holding it back, it gives us a chance to now sort of explain exactly what's going on with it and why we've done what we've done without giving anything away. It's kind of hard to talk about it without actually.
The easiest way to put it without even mentioning anything, it was a particular hot topic at the time, and we had told a story with that ending in mind, like any horror novel. But in today's media, that can be, as Tommy said, turned very quickly. So this particular video we shot, we didn't really want people thinking we were trying to glorify anything. It just happened to align up with some unfortunate stuff in the news that we kind of ended on. And that was like the cliffhanger, if you will, that would lead on to this next chapter. But because of the way, like obviously, as Tommy said, because of the way it was such a hot topic, we didn't want to release it. I think we're thinking about it, aren't we? It's something.
It was timing as well, wasn't it? Like when the song was written, like I know from a vocalist point, it was very much written to be uncomfortable, and I wanted it to be uneasy. Like even in, like we said about horror films, like it's the sounds in the background that make you, like, give you goosebumps and things like that. So little things that we kind of work towards doing to make it have that sort of offish impression. Then with a music video that we plan on sort of doing the same thing with, and as Tommy and Will have just put it, what was included in that video, timing wise, was just awful because of things that had happened. It would have just seemed far too much like a direct inspiration, even though realistically the concept had been written quite a long time before these events had happened.
And unfortunately, with today's modern social media, people are going to see that and think about the news and be like, oh, well, and they won't think, oh, this may have been filmed a year ago. It was, yeah. I don't believe in coincidences, but it was a coincidence, and it was shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't wait to see it now. But
there we go. Hype.
It's more likely going to be the edited version as well, because the first one, I went back and were like, nah, people are still going to swing it. So I did a bit of like rejigging to not like point fingers and stuff.
Yeah. I think we're going to look at it and be like, obviously, Lyndon and Will, just to briefly touch on it, if anyone's seen like previous interviews and stuff, they did like they're the brains behind all the music videos, like directing, producing, everything. So obviously they did all this work, and we're like, this is unfortunate because they've done all this work, and we've got other people involved, and so we obviously want to still use it, and it still makes sense in the story we're trying to tell, I think. So we'll definitely use it and go back to it.
Yeah, it was a question I was going to ask you actually. Who's the one that comes up with the ideas for the videos then of the band?
Will and Lyndon.
Lyndon, yeah.
Sorry, would agree with me.
I think in their rawest form, it kind of comes out when I write lyrics. I mean, I know that started with Wandering Child, which Will was the seed in that, most definitely. Like the sort of where Wandering Child was going to go was very much Will's idea. Yeah. And then it was finished between us. And from then on, the concepts were already in place, but the specifics that the songs were going to illustrate weren't.
Yeah.
Cool. So it was kind of what part of that we would then go on to elaborate on. So largely it starts with lyrics that are wrapped around other sort of metaphors. And that's kind of what you can use a story for, isn't it? And a concept is you can use imagery of one story to make another a lot more relatable.
So like Wandering Child, that seed that me and Lyndon crafted. So I crafted this first section, and then Lyndon kind of finishes the song with his inputs. It's like a 50-50 on the lyrics in that. The character of Father Bernard that we have now been at the forefront of all this is based off the priest that essentially, I think he was Catholic actually, that banished a witch in Wookey Hole in Bath.
Okay.
Just outside of Bath, and then essentially, I thought it'd be a really cool idea if the idea of the witch taking over Father Bernard, and then had lived 1,000 years in hiding, creating all these horrible events and kind of manipulating the world from behind the trustworthy appearance of this Catholic priest. And obviously, he kind of pushes his influence in modern day onto all these different characters that you see in the music videos.
Yeah. Oh, cool. There's some imagination that you guys have got. But Ian's cat, what do you think about Struck Down's music? Oh, the cat's gone.
Sakura, come back. Where are you? She'll do this. She's very...
No, thanks very much for that insight on the videos, because it was quite a big part of what I was going to ask in the second part of this interview. So we just went with it there. So thanks very much for that. But from Demons then, for those that are new to the band, how would you say it compares to your early material? And do you think you've found the sound that you've been looking for? Or do you think you're always going to progress or whatever?
We're always going to write. We're always going to try and beat the last song we've written, because that's who we are. We never stop writing because we're just like that. I think, other guys can chip in, but with the album, it was very much like finding our identity. And if you go back to that and listen to Sinking, and especially Gone, which is pretty much the last song we wrote, I think, that was very much like, this is the sound. And Will came along, Wandering Child, and it's just flowed from there. It was a very natural extension. So I'd say, it
kind of opened up like a darker side of writing, which I gravitate towards anyway, just due to my own sort of personal listening. So once that gate had been opened, it really kind of let the floodgates of creativity come out for pretty much every single member. All of a sudden we were like, oh, okay, we're all literally now on the same page, like 100% on the same page without other influences getting involved. We all know that the darker sound really suits everybody in the band, and it's just so much fun to write the darker sound, especially when you've got riffs coming in that just make you go, oh, that's a little bit evil actually. And then Lyndon could go, oh, I've got a little bit evil that I can write over that actually. And it just flows so nicely. I think the darker sound is definitely where we're going to stick with. Whether or not it's necessarily going to be as doomy as previous songs or as groovy, we're always going to define that line between both. And it really is just whatever comes out at any given point, really. Yeah,
sure. Like, thanks. Well, is it Ian that comes in with the Motley Crue influences? Because I hear that in a couple of the songs. Is it Ian's fault?
Probably not, considering my background. I mean, I don't know if Will's a big Motley Crue listener. I don't think it's ever come up in conversation.
I wouldn't say I was a big Motley Crue fan, but like classic rock definitely was like a beginning influence, like AC/DC and all that. That was where we started when we were early Struck Down. But I've always liked high energy songs, but also like the theatrical, like storytelling side. So I would say more influence in terms of Wandering Child when we were writing it. Like I remember when I was inside the caves, like Muddy Waters and Eric Johnson were in my brain. So like really old like Delta blues players, and that's how I originally like envisioned the opening like guitar piece. And when we were in practice, it started to kick in more Sabbathy, and obviously Sabbath and blues and all that sort of all comes hand in hand, doesn't it? Really, so kind of just like influence, and eventually you get to Sabbath. So like I think I would probably say more Sabbath, but I can see Motley Crue, so I do like Motley Crue.
I think Sabbath is like a big meeting ground in all of our tastes, though. There's no dethroning them. Like it's not that they're like all of our favorite band, but it's just something that there's no questioning. We all agree on it. We all love the sort of theatrical vibe to it. The simplicity in it as well. Someone was putting it the other day, weren't they? Was the meat and potatoes. Not the dressing you squirt over it. And I think some of the band, I know for myself, like some of the bands, it's the painfully simple stuff that you can never get out of your head, and you still remember it as just iconic. Like some of the greatest riffs in history are the ones that are the first ones you learn when you pick up a guitar. And as much as we're not necessarily aiming for all of our riffs to be one or two notes, but it's focusing on that importance of them just being the right notes, and not just trying to dress it up.
I was only kidding about the Motley Crue, because if you had Motley Crue influences in your music, you wouldn't be having this interview, because I wouldn't be interested.
Oh, wow. We went right down the rabbit hole.
Although I do admit, my first ever gig I went to in my life, I was 15, and it was Tiger Tails. But you tell anybody about that, we're over. We're finished.
Well, you just told a lot of people, didn't you?
Thank goodness this is never going to be aired live.
Yeah. But with everything that's happened in the last 18 months, 2 years then, has it made you guys look at the more business side of the band then? Have you guys maybe had to take in roles that you hadn't before, and like marketing, merch and all the rest of it, or whatever happens within band? Have you guys having to take on new roles?
I think Tommy was doing that like a whole year before the pandemic anyway. He was as soon as we kind of got into 2019, he was already starting to read up, learn well before any of us did. I would say we didn't start really getting involved. We all had our own little jobs and stuff, but until about 2020, when it did go into the pandemic, I think that's when we started to realize the business side of it, and being efficient and treating the band as much as a business as a hobby. So I think Tommy was a whole year ahead of people, and he's always been kind of reading up on the latest trends or what to do and how to make yourself relevant, because it's no longer just the music. You know, you can go to a gig and see a band play and they could be really good, but then if they come up and get pissed and just completely forget about that business side and still representing themselves professionally, then it can just ruin their whole sort of vibe and feel. You know what I mean? So you've really got to have that business headset, or at least try and learn it nowadays, because it's just not efficient, and it's not going to get you anywhere if you don't, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think we're all going to stroke Tommy's ego here, and I hope he won't mind, because he always talks about it, so we can talk about his business side. But yeah, it's no lie, say, Tommy, especially from a business point of view. I'm not putting your musical skills to turn them down. No, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh man, it's coming off really bad. Bye, Ian. Nice being in the band.
Drama, Tommy, but you know how to use a computer real good.
No, seriously, like really, like without Tommy's business mindset, I think Struck Down wouldn't be where it is right now. We would definitely be a few years behind the curve. Even like yesterday, I think it was, it was yesterday, I think. Tommy sent a little voice clip saying, so I've been looking at some videos and I've been looking at the algorithms, and like, what is it? Reels on Instagram and TikTok is the way to go. And every day, even when Tommy's not doing his actual job, his job which pays him money, he's trying to make this his job, which is what we all want. Will touched on it really well about the business side, is that the band is a brand and we need to develop that. And Tommy's done that. He's helped us develop a brand.
And that's another reason as to why you released so many singles, so many videos as well. You pretty much created a whole package and the whole run up to the actual EP launch. So
it's creating strength. So like in terms of releasing that package, obviously we got Tommy on the business side of things, and he's helping out and he's doing all that incredible stuff on the business side. And then when we started doing the music videos, me and Lyndon started doing it just kind of like right at the edge of lockdown, when people could only go out in twos. So it was just me and him in a woods or whatever. And it starts to like, people will try so hard to create content like in a lockdown when there's nothing going on. But just from them little things, like doing that music video and then constantly keeping that up and thinking of ways we can do like videos on pedal boards and videos on guitar setups, and it all seems pretty tedious stuff on paper, but it's creating that constant idea that we are actually a band and we do have lots of our own opinions, and this guitarist might not agree with this one, but that doesn't matter because that's music, isn't it? Everyone's going to have varying opinions of what sounds good and what doesn't. So I think creating that constant package, and we've had a few local bands say to us like, we've made a blueprint they're trying to follow, because we have failed and we have succeeded. Like when we won Metal to the Masses, that was us succeeding, and us, maybe we wouldn't have been there if we hadn't kept up this constant package, as you say, of music, content, creating videos, being more business minded. The creativity was absolutely flowing, etc.
So you boys are making me so proud. So like a proud dad.
With Will and Lyndon looking after the video side of the band, and with Tommy doing the business side of the band, Ian, what is it you do?
I do drink a fair bit. I don't. My wife's just giving me this look. It's like, no, I don't drink that much.
I'm only kidding you on. I was only playing.
No, it's fine. I mean, I think at the beginning of the lockdown, especially when we're like, shit, we can't gig, we can't do like what a band would normally do. It's like, right, we got to hit social media. So I was posting on the band Instagram like 5 out of 7 days a week, which is, especially when we had quite a good backlog of content, but you soon run out of content.
Yeah.
But luckily we had Tommy giving us ideas, and of course we got Ash from Enzo Music on board, and Enzo Management on board even, and then Will and Lyndon were giving us content from the music video. So actually it flowed really nicely. I think for me, my strengths probably lie more in the practice room, but Tommy's been quite
the most important job out.
What?
Like our hub. You and Lara are like.
Oh yeah, this house
when there's
is.
A problem,
yeah.
Every band needs a support foundation, and you're essentially our support foundation. We go to you when there's problems. We go see you and Lara. You and Lara are like the fucking mummy, and you like the granddaddy and the grandmum of the fucking band.
Thank you, Will.
When Daddy Tommy's being a prick, we go to you.
I hate to say,
we go and talk to him.
I hate to say how many times Will's been round here crying about Daddy Tommy being like, I'm like, it's okay, Will, it's okay. Yeah, it's not.
Have I done?
No, you haven't.
How has this gone from praising me to absolutely shitting on me?
No, it's really nice. It's really nice. I mean, I love being that support unit for my friends, which of course everyone is, or you all are. So it's nice that we can provide that safe environment, because each band member each have their own challenges over the years we've been together, and. I have an open door policy. Not right now, it's locked because it's dark and it's like 8 o'clock at night. But if any of them said I need to come round, absolutely, the door is open and there's no time objects. You can come round. So
I can't believe there's actually a band where all band members actually like each other.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's very impressive.
Weird.
We are all so passionate that we do bicker a lot, but it's all from a place of this is what we want to do.
Yeah.
This isn't just a hobby. This is.
He also keeps the merch.
Want to do. Oh yeah, I hang on to the merch as well. And I also
security deposit.
I also pack
the CDs.
I also pack the car really good whenever we need to go anywhere. It's like, right, we've got to sit in the car. Right.
Ian's a very proficient Tetris player.
What people don't know about Ian is he once competed in the Grand National Tetris tournament in Uruguay.
Uruguay. Yeah.
And how did you go on?
It went pretty terribly, but I haven't let that hold me back.
Well, it's because he had to get someone else to bring their car for him to pack the boot.
He comes second place out of all 2 people who turned up.
Good stuff. But this kind of leads me on, because of the camaraderie and things like that, then it kind of leads me on to my next question, like how are the songs constructed? Because you've also got your own personal taste in music, but how do you negotiate what stays in and what goes out of a song?
In all honesty, we're pretty blunt with each other. If we don't like something, we don't think it's struck down, we're like, that's not our sound. Yeah. And the fact that we're such good friends means that we can have that sort of open, nah, that riff is shit, mate, what are you doing kind of policy. And no one ever takes offense to it or anything like that.
I was going to say, did you notice that he always points out the guitarist? It's always the guitarist's fault, according to the drummer.
Well, I mean, I do actually do a lot of the writing on guitar as well, so I don't know where to put myself with that.
On the upcoming EP, there's a fair bit of Tommy guitar, the riffs he comes up with a riff, and me and Will obviously make it better.
Thank you very much, Ian.
I said me and Will. I think like Tommy said, because of, and as you've mentioned, because of the camaraderie, we can just be honest with each other. We had it in practice the other week. I came up with a riff, and we're like, oh yeah, it's really good. And when we actually put it through the grinder and added drums, we're like, oh, actually, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
So if anything, we're getting better at it because we can work out. It's like
a crossroads, isn't it? Really, I think that all the different music comes by each other's lanes, but eventually the lanes will cross. And I think that's how we kind of efficiently do it. I mean, I can't even play drums. If you've ever seen me play drums, it is a fucking sight. There's more blinking than there is hitting the fucking drums going on. I think, even then, I've had ideas for drums, and Lyndon's had ideas for guitars, and Ian's had ideas for Ian.
Well, I was going to say, it must be an absolute nightmare for you, Lyndon. You've got potentially 3 guitarists in the group. Then do they all send you riffs at 4 o'clock in the morning saying this is the best riff yet?
You know what normally happens is
riffs.
I send them riffs written on a 3/4 size pink acoustic guitar, and that happens more often than they send me riffs.
And that's at 4 o'clock in the morning as well. It does happen.
It is 2 o'clock in the morning.
He'll send.
To be fair, if any band needed to send someone something at 4 o'clock in the morning, Lyndon would be the only person up.
Also, he'll send riffs not in the correct tuning of what we're playing.
Sounds
So we're like,
heavy as
it probably does in whatever tuning it probably is in.
Let's be honest, though. The amount of times where we've transposed it and I've
Yeah.
just been able to smugly nod, like, told you it was going to be good, because I haven't heard it either. I think with writing as well, we're so sort of, we try to be as fair as possible. We don't want dominant members that can override someone else's call and things like that. So we try our best to allow someone's vision to come to light. If someone can really hear something, we try to give them the chance to show us the fullest idea before we would dismiss it, because obviously showing a fraction of a song without the layers behind it and the dynamics of it sort of going into the next part, you can't really get a full feel for it.
It always works, doesn't it? I mean, like, even the most recent stuff we've been writing, like it would be like me and Tommy shaving loads of sheep to get wool, and then sending it to Lyndon and Ian, and then making some, well, especially Ian, making some top-notch neck sweaters, like just fucking musical genius. We give him the wool, he makes the fucking top neck.
What's a neck sweater?
It's a sweater which like comes up to here. I hate neck sweaters.
Are you on about a turtleneck?
That's what I meant.
I mean,
I couldn't fucking remember what it was called. I knew I had turtle in it, but I couldn't.
You didn't even say turtle. You said fucking neck sweater. Jesus, you're fucking bragging about being half right, and that weren't even fucking true.
This is the thing.
I was going to go with like a kangaroo jumper.
Will doesn't know the words, but we still know what he means.
Yeah, this honestly, our practice is when we're writing together. We met a band the other day actually that speak like us, because he turned around to his mate. He was turning around to his mate. You know that bit on the guitar where I do the bullading down, and I was like, "Hey, we say that."
That's us.
Oh, absolutely brilliant, guys! Absolutely brilliant. Okay, so thanks very much for that then. So as we all know, it's been a difficult 18 months, 2 years then of not playing any gigs, but did you think of doing like a virtual gig over the course of the last year to keep your name out there? Like, was there a chance that you could have went into, when you could meet, like go into your studio rehearsal space and just set up a couple of cameras and do a half-hour set or something? Was that discussed?
It was kind of complete lockdown over here, so we couldn't really do that during the whole pandemic and quarantine. We did discuss a few bands. Ian,
we did discuss it in the break between the two.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think when it actually came to us having a bit more freedom, we went straight on to recording Shackle the Preacher video and things like that. So as much as it was something we planned on doing, financially, I wouldn't say tied up, but we prioritized elsewhere.
Yeah.
It worked in our favor to be able to get demos done, get progress with the music videos that involve more of us. So I think largely it was something in the lockdown we planned on doing, and it was more early on in the lockdown. I think it was like, the soon as it's possible, we'll get it done. Yeah. But we gave ourselves such a bigger task list that it then sort of fell back in priorities to do. And it was like, let's just make sure that we're on a better stage when we come back for gigs.
I think the other free time we spent just sort of hanging out, really. Like, everyone struggled through the pandemic and we just enjoyed each other's company for that limited time. So we definitely thought that was just as important as actually doing the rest of it as well. It's just to go out and have a bit of banter, record some videos, and just enjoy the time that we've got until Boris ruined it again.
Well, Nicola's got a lot of support up here. A lot of people that I know in England are saying they would have liked it to be Nicola that was in control. Although she seems to have a wee bit more caution, whereas I think with Boris, it's just like, no, open the floodgates, everyone's fine. But yes, I've seen it work. I'm sure you guys would have liked the budget of like Behemoth and stuff to do like a virtual gig to show the true Struck Down. So maybe in the rehearsal space you weren't seeing the true live environment of the band. So I can see the pros and cons of it.
I think there are facilities, like there are places nearby that can do what we would want.
Yeah.
As Lynn said, financially we were tied up because we wanted to do the music videos. We were on a roll from Wandering Child.
Yeah.
And you know, we want the right sound to do us justice. I'd hate it if we did one and we just sounded a bit naff. And then it's like, well, that's not a true representation of us. It all comes back to us being like a brand and a product. It needs to be the best always.
Beyond that, a camera wouldn't motivate us to conduct ourselves or perform to the same level that a crowd does.
Yeah,
like I know definitely on like myself, I couldn't give a shit if a camera's looking at me, but if a crowd's looking at me, then I'll make an absolute twat of myself every minute I can.
Best way. You're good at that. I'll give you that. You're good at that.
Thank you. I try hard.
He's getting better.
Yeah, but since the focus has turned to Lyndon a wee bit, then this is a question for you. With you being the vocalist of the band, then do you do all the lyrics or the majority of the lyrics for the songs, or do you welcome contributions from the rest of the band?
It used to. So I've always been the main lyric writer, and early on, Will had a lot more input with my lyrics than he does now. So Wandering Child is the most recent sort of like lyrical addition from Will, and that was I'm trying to think. It was the verse and the pre-chorus.
The intro, verse, pre-chorus, and the first part of the chorus. Then Lyndon wrote the second part of the chorus, the verse, and the rest of the song, basically.
Cool.
From there, he even made a very cool twist on the intro, where he completely twisted it and wrote like an outro version of it, which was completely fresh lyrics, which was essentially where the name Wandering Child come from.
Cool.
But beyond that, I've found I really struggle to perform other people's lyrics.
That's what I was going to move on to next.
The way I write lyrics, and I've tried to explain it to the boys before, is and earlier on I touched on it with Vision, but it's like if the boys come up with a riff and there's drums to it and things like that, musically it tells me a story in my head. It will either summarize an emotion or it'll trigger something in my head that can make me relate to a previous experience or something like that.
Yeah.
And then largely I try to elaborate on that and make it as relatable or easy to put images to or imagine in their own perspective.
Yeah.
I know that sounds sort of quite probably cliche, but it's this largely the riff. Even beyond that riff, it'll kind of set the cogs in motion for writing. And I write in quite a limericky fashion, so I don't often follow the riff in how my melodies would be. It's almost set by the bounce of the words.
Yeah.
Which I think is why it's so hard for me to put my spin on someone else's lyrics, because
that's what I was going to say. You can't imagine yourself. You don't know how, if Tommy wrote the lyrics, for example, he's picturing how you're going to sing it, but trying to convey that to you, you may not be able to get what he's wanting and stuff. So I can see what you're saying, but also with you being the vocalist, they guys can pick up their instruments and practice and whatnot. When you couldn't get into the rehearsal studio, then how did you keep your vocals in check?
In the car.
I was actually going to say, did you sing in the shower or sing in the car and stuff like that? Yeah.
I take a lot of inspiration from like really unlikely sources. But then when it comes to the car, that's a place where if I sang full volume in this house any more than once a week, I know it's going to piss off a lot of people. And shit, I think the closest I've ever seen to the alternative crowd down my road is maybe if someone's got a chain coming out of their pocket, like fuck, like there's none of that going on down this road.
Yeah.
So it is. I as silly as it would sound, I'll be singing like Elton John in the shower or whatever, but then hey, Don't be like that.
Wow. Ellen, John, I think we were just about to end this interview. Cut it short. No,
That's
no,
fine.
no, that's
fine.
good.
But yeah, so, and I think the boys would agree. Like my taste and what I'm listening to at the time has always been really sporadic. But driving is something that I managed to shove to, and I do on a bit of an autopilot, and it's a release. It's one of my most calming things I could do. So naturally, I find myself getting right into it. Whatever I'm playing at the time, it is what I'll be singing along with, even if that's then a demo track that we've come up with, or Tommy sent across a more fuller demo for something we would go and elaborate on. And I've always improvised a fair bit, or always liked to. So even when it comes to writing our lyrics, a verse can come together in the course of like a minute, because it just flows out.
Yeah.
And then I'll later on sort of touch back on it, whether that's at home or while singing the next verse. So
I know why he's the lyricist of the band, because he speaks a bloody lot, doesn't he? So he's got a lot to say.
Thank you.
It's not like you've never told me, and it's not like I've ever denied it.
Yeah, this is true.
It's true.
Yeah.
I have a very particular set of skills, and they all start with my tongue.
Yeah.
Are we going there on a live interview? No.
I don't know enough to drink for that.
Well, listen, guys, you've been signed to the growing Enzo Music Management now. I know them quite well. So how did that come about? How's the relationship been so far? And what do you hope Enzo Music Management will do for Struckdown?
Well, I saw that they just signed a new manager, Ash, and he actually popped out an advert looking for a roster. I just thought, do you know what? Shot in the dark. Let me chuck an email across. And do you know what? I just went, we're struck down. This is what we've done, and you should sign us because we're cool. And that was in a bigger email. Yeah. And within 45 minutes, Ash had got back and was like, "Yeah, I want to talk to you boys." And the rest is history from there, really.
Yeah.
We had a band. First band down this way as well, like because we were so far out from his pool, if you will.
Yeah.
I think it was probably quite an exciting prospect to have a band this far down doing so well for themselves off their own back, really.
Yeah.
You know, without any help. Imagine what can be done if he started helping and guiding, etc.
Yeah.
Just about to sort of say with that, I think it was quite nice, especially for us, and I can imagine for Ash, when we first started speaking to Ash, most of what he suggested was stuff we'd either A, recently spoken about, or B, recently started to implement in.
Yeah.
So both on our sides, we had that sort of, we are definitely been doing the right thing. We haven't been wasting our time or unnecessarily stressing ourselves out. And I can imagine with Ash, it meant that he didn't have all of the startup work to do. He could actually focus on his bigger plans. And I think it's made for a really good relationship between us and Ash, I'd say.
It stopped him from having to develop us first, which is a whole nother kettle of fish in terms of management. And the fact that he could just jump straight in and go, right, this is where we need to be, this is what we need to do. Essentially, it was just kind of a really good match, really, and we just got along with him really well. Anytime that he put something up, you know, we either go, yeah, that's a really good idea, or literally within the same hour, someone's already gone, you know what, I was literally just thinking that was a really good idea. So there's always that level of affirmation and always on the same sort of wavelength, which is super, super helpful.
The way Will has always put it in the band is we always need like that extra member outside of a band that isn't actually a band member, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And
Ash has provided that. We've tried it with other people over years and it's never really worked, but Ash is, you know, he'll tell us when we're doing something good and he'll always provide constructive criticism. And yeah, he fills that void that Will's always spoken about. So yeah, really lucky to have him. He's been nothing but, I like to think, good for us.
Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Enzo. I've got a lot of time for Rachel and what she's trying to do with it. So I know that you'll be well looked after. So I hope it flourishes. And one of the ways to make it flourish is getting you gigs. Have you got any gigs lined up in the near future? Are you thinking of going further afield in Kent and going above the Thames, for example?
We
Yeah,
did.
we've got a couple on the way. We've got we're actually playing another hometown show on the 24th of March. I think 4 days later, 27th, 3 days later. We're heading up Sheffield way to play. I can't remember the name, but it's under Lost Island Entertainment under those guys.
Okay.
And then apart from that, the next gig we've got booked, we're gonna guest slot on the Metal to the Masses final, which is another going to be quite a big one for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
But we're looking to spread our wings. We want to go as far north as we physically can. We want to go to Wales. Europe's a bit of a
Wales is that far north, is it?
Yeah, it is. Honestly, it is. It's more north than it is sideways for us. So.
I mean, it's more north if you want to go right around the fucking North Pole and just keep going.
I've had years being told that Scotland has like the best metal gigs in the UK. So I know I've quite repeatedly said to the rest of the band, and we're going to get into Scotland, right? So where in Sturgeon Land would you like us to play, Ricky?
Well, I'm from Glasgow, born and bred, and I was actually going to say that to you. If you are thinking about coming up to Scotland, get in touch with me. I'll put in Craig Law or Hamilton Hunter or Ivory Blacks. They're probably the three biggest in Glasgow. Edinburgh, I can get you in touch with folk as well. But if you're wanting, even consider, I know it's a hell of a journey for you guys, but Aberdeen, places like Aberdeen and Inverness, they guys are screaming for gigs. So when you do go and play, you're always likely to get a good sized crowd, you know. I think what's happened with COVID is sometimes you would play a gig and 20, 30 people turn up. But the gigs that I've been to since we've been allowed to go back to gigs, they've been packed. So I think now's the time to try it, you know, and just get out there, get on the road.
You could go up
That's
there
what it is, Ricky.
really.
Yeah, we will say we can go up and do all three. It's something I want to do.
Glasgow and Edinburgh, might as well while we're there.
Yeah. We said about doing weekenders because it's a better use of our time, and it's a great experience for us as well, because we've done the odd one night overstay somewhere, but we've never done like a weekender. So it'd be a cool experience for us as well to do.
I was going to say, if you are playing Glasgow, then I'll tell you plenty of nice hotels because you're not staying here. No, I mean, I've got a 3-bedroom house. I stay by myself, so I've never done it before, but I'm beginning to say, look, if you're stuck or whatever like that, then give us a shout. I can't guarantee a full English breakfast in the morning, but there will be rent to pay. No,
will rent suffice.
I can guarantee
really
you
nice
a full English breakfast, Ricky. Although I'm trying to start the tradition. Steak sandwiches on big gig day. The boys just don't get it. But the day we won our Metal to the Masses final, I had a big fat steak sandwich. This thing was like, well, that was the steak.
Yeah.
And the boys didn't believe me, but it obviously had magic sauce in it. So
oh no, I'll treat you to like a deep fried Mars bar and stuff like that. You put it in a roll. It's brilliant. Brilliant.
What about haggis? Because I generally do really like haggis. It's really good.
Oh, I love haggis. Haggis, snakes and totties. What's that, Will?
Linda's the sort of person who gets a treasure map and goes to the circle where you start looking for the treasure, not the fucking X. If I could explain him in common sense, that would be it.
What's funny is when you mentioned the circle, I thought you was describing the compass, and I was thinking I probably would be like, well, that island looks pretty fucking cool shape.
Lyndon would go to the X and then make his way to the circle.
I'd leave a flag like I started here.
Yeah, compass would be like, that's a cool tattoo.
To loop this background to the original point, I'd love to come and play Scotland, and
definitely.
I'll hit you up in the next few days, and I'll keep
Absolutely.
pestering you because that's the person I am.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got Glasgow and Edinburgh. I know Ward 16, for example, they're going to be doing that Glasgow and Edinburgh. I worry about that slightly because some people would come to Edinburgh to Glasgow and some would go from Glasgow to Edinburgh. Whether it might split it, I don't know. But I mean, there's Dundee and there's Aberdeen and Inverness, and then you've got about a 15-hour journey back home. But I mean, there's definitely scenes. There's a good metal scene up here. You know, it's just you've got to pick and choose your time. You've got to get your timing right. because everybody and their uncle's coming out to play now, you know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, certainly I'll get you in touch with like Craig Law and Hamilton Hunter and stuff like that, and Ivory Blacks, and they'll look after you.
Nice one.
Definitely.
No, I really
Cool.
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I know.
I think that's one of the daunting things about leaving our. It's what we mainly want to focus on, beyond sort of keeping the consistent writing and releases happening, is getting in touch with the right promoters. I know that probably sounds like throwing shade at a big amount of promoters, but you can travel 6-7 hours straight to go to a gig and then find that the promoter just was not looking out for you at all.
Yeah.
It just agreed to a gig, and I mean, or wouldn't even turn up to the gig himself.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's being put in touch with promoters that someone we've worked with or trust knows and trusts. Because then if, say we go up to a gig that's, you know, less than desired or less than expected, it's like these things happen. If you're to make them commitments and sacrifices to get to a gig, and then to find that realistically the reason it's dead is because the promoter just put no legwork in, you're not going to be in an area that you're expected to be highly desirable. You know, you're going to want to be playing a gig with another band that are there to put on the best show they can as well. And it's, I suppose most bands that you'd ever play with are all doing that. But if we wanted to go and play to 4 people, we'd do it on our doorstep.
And Manchester was packed.
Yeah, Manchester was good.
Oh yeah, the 016 one, they're fucking brilliant.
Yeah, they're trailblazing. I guess like going back to what Lyndon was saying, and doubling back to the Ash question about Enzo, is that where Ash put it to us after we all met from Mass and played Bloodstock, is that we've kind of, in the local scene, we're at the top now because we've been that band from Kent that's played Bloodstock, and now we're starting at the bottom of that like national scene, and now we just need to kind of do that grind all over again and work it up. So like Lyndon say, it's the right promoters, it's the right people to get us where we want to be.
Yeah,
because we want to quit our day job so we can do music full time.
Tell me about it.
We're under no illusion. That's why we're all here.
Yeah.
So.
I'm nearly crying there. That was quite emotional. That was good.
We're an emotional band. Listen to our EP on all good streaming services.
But listen, it's just the last question for you then. And this is probably where I'll set up another 40-minute Zoom chat, because you're going to talk about the instruments that you use in the recording. So, Ian, we'll start off with your good self.
How long have you got?
That's enough. Tommy, what's the drum setup? No, Ian, what's your guitar of choice?
At the moment, it has been a long time. It's so I've got an ESP Eclipse, like a single cut model.
Okay.
Basically a Les Paul shape. I've been playing that in the band since I joined. It was running EMG pickups. I'm now running passive bare knuckles. I used to run for Will's old Marshall, which he kindly lent me for many years. I upgraded to Victory amps, a couple of pedals, and that's it. It's nice, chunky riffs.
Is it 6 or 7 string?
6. We're a 6-string band.
Yeah.
We tune down to drop C.
Yeah.
Except Tommy, he plays some weird drums or something. I don't know what that's about.
Didn't you use my guitar for recording? Well, sure.
But which was also an ESP. Yeah, but also I like to mention my ESP did all the tracking on the album as well. But we've all got real workhorses of guitars. So yeah, that's me. I'll keep it brief.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ian. I was about to say, Lyndon, you're on mute, but you've discovered that yourself, so that's cool. Tommy, what about? I'm just going around the screen what I've got. So, Tommy, what's your drum setup then?
It's actually changed. So I was on a Premier kit for a long time. My first ever kit that my dad bought me back when I started drumming. Just behind me here.
That's rather convenient.
There it is. That is a new Mapex Armory kit that I got over Christmas. So I'm now going to be using that live and recording wise.
Will's going to get his guitar.
I know that. Yeah.
In terms of cymbals, it is a mixture because cymbals are very expensive, and I buy them repaired from a guy called Cymbal Magic, who takes them, repairs all the cracks on them, and then sells them for honestly the cheapest prices, and they sound incredible. So I've got a mixture of repaired Sabians, Silgens, Meinl cymbals, basically anything that I feel like kind of sounds the way that I want the sound to work. I'm not too fussed. I'm not kind of stuck with one brand. I like to explore and make them match together, which, yeah, I just find it really cool experimenting with that sort of stuff.
So have you found it quite difficult to get say for example, the snare sound that you've been looking for?
Snare, my snare I've actually had for about 7 years, which is a Mapex Black Panther blade. The Devil Driver drummer, that's his signature snare, and his snare drum is on point. So I thought, do you know what? I want to sound like that.
When that snare is properly mic'd up, it's like a shotgun. Tommy, that's how Tommy described it to me. I was like, snare. He's like, nah, it sounds like a shotgun. And it is. It sounds like a fucking shotgun when it goes off. It's fantastic.
Champion. Thanks very much for that, Tommy. Go for it, Will. I've got a funny feeling your guitar's just right next to you.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question.
I am so unprepared. I should have mine.
Well, I bought this along, like show and tell evening. This I made this during lockdown.
Very nice.
As you see,
When he made earlier.
it's a custom pattern. I basically
sandpaper.
Fuck loads off, and I started using it during Wandering Child. Before that, I used a cherry red Epiphone, and then when the band first started, I painted a Gibson Studio, which was this one. It was pure black. Bought it for like 500 quid. It was worth a shit ton more. But fuck them, they don't know. So, and we spray painted a skull on it, shaved it off loads, and then during lockdown, I was like, I need a project to do for like the first week of fucking quarantine. So I decided to start sanding this again, and it turned into that thermo-like colour.
Very nice.
Very tight, and then fucking, I don't know if you can read that. There's a vintage. That's the original serial number of the studio on the back.
Cool.
And where it was made in 2010 in America. So yeah, that was my show and tell for the evening. I'll bring my dad next week. And
you know what you haven't done yet, Will?
What pickups do you use, Will? What pickups?
Yeah, not really explained anything beyond what wood your guitar's made of.
I was going to say
the less important side of it. I've got a bare knuckle aftermath, Ian's the boot, and in the neck I've got a cold sweat, which is kind of like a more of a bluesy vibe, because that's like my sort of more favourite. I mainly bought this one to make me sound fucking pucker, basically.
on a super serious note, yeah, I upgraded to bare knuckle in my. So I also have a Chapman Ghost Fret, which is like a Flying V, not Flying V. What do you call it? Explorer. Thank you. Shaped guitar. So I got a bare knuckle silo in that, and then I upgraded in my ESP. I took out I put a Seymour Duncan in my neck, but then I put a bare knuckle Ragnarok, which is Misha Mansour from Peripheries. One of his signature pickups. He has two. It's crazy. I put that in the bridge, and so yeah, Will and I, we both upgraded to passive bare knuckles, and we've both upgraded to Victory amps. And what's going to be really cool on the next EP is because in the last EP we used active pickups, all EMG. Now we're going to go to that passive sound, and I really think tonally that's going to make a huge difference, because there's that warmth that passive pickups provides, because active pickups just compress your signal so much. Squishy.
I've also got this really cool pedal that when you press it down, it goes wee woo wee woo wee woo woo.
We're locally known as a wild pedal.
That was beautifully put. But Will, is that the only guitar? Like, say you're going on a 3-date tour or something like that. Is that the only guitar you take with you?
I'd often bring my guitar with me as well, which is an LTD 401 something or other that I can't remember, loaded with
super strap. It's a super strap.
Yeah.
Because I was just wondering, well, what happens if a string breaks?
I
panic.
I get a microphone and I go.
Now what we do is we always bring a.
Well,
yeah.
I have a blue Chris Robertson signature PRS because my favorite band's Blackstone Cherry.
Yeah. Yeah.
As evident on my shirt, I'm not going to get me willy out. So calm down.
Close one, boys.
Yeah,
Boys.
cool. Lyndon, with you being the vocalist of the band, then have you went through like a range of microphones before you finally settled on the one microphone that you like the sound of, or you just give me an SM58 and I'll fucking sing into anything?
Right. I do own a knockoff SM55.
Okay.
I'm amazed I still have all my teeth left because I do kiss microphones pretty hard on a regular basis. Believe it or not, because I have been of peasant status many a times and for a long time, I did get the wonderful present of an SM58 from the band, and that's been
brotherly love right there.
Oh man, like, I mean, you could probably, there was a photo that went up and I did look halfway between like a beach, well, it's like a beach going Eskimo was how I was dressed in this photo, but I was pretty emotional knowing that the boys had gone and got me something as special as that, because it was never the way I'd really gone and done it, if that makes sense.
Maybe they're just telling you that your vocals were shit before.
No,
Yeah,
it was more the fact
it was beyond shit vocals. It was, we want to hear how shit you are, but clearly.
No, it was more along the lines that I'd bought loads of relevant shit for actual musicians, so for loads of guitar stuff. And had to top up. No, this is true. I had to top up the car. I was like 40 quid off. So we bought a
Well, listen, I've had a few laughs tonight. It's been absolutely brilliant talking to you guys. You might actually be my longest ever interview, and I kind of thought it would be after the first 5 minutes when I haven't even said hello yet. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys. Yeah. So when you do have your like a song ready for your second EP or something like that, and you're okay to play it, send it to me and we'll get it played on the radio. Or certainly if you've got a video ready, send it to I'll promote it in Moshville Times as well. But certainly the songs that you want played on the radio, we'll play them on the radio. We've got numerous DJs that play everything from indie to extreme metal, so you won't get played on just the one show. You'll get played on a good couple. So we'll do our bit to support Struck Down. And like I said, you're not staying here when you come up to Glasgow. So
thank you.
That's fun, mate.
Yeah, we'll stay next door.
I stay on an end terrace, so you'll be out in the lane there. I stay on an end terrace. But listen, guys, thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, Moshville Times have always been great to us. So thank you.
No worries at all.
We'll see you next time for our stage side interview.
Yes, very much looking forward to that. And I'll see you at a gig very, very soon, hopefully.